Our commencement speaker today is Patrick Murphy, who represented Florida's 18th district, covering the Treasure Coast and northern Palm Beach County from 2013 to 2017. A CPA and businessman who grew frustrated by the dysfunction in Washington, Mr. Murphy took it on and defeated Alan West in 2012 in one of the closest and most expensive U.S. House races in history. 2 years later, he was reelected by a 20-point margin. Congressman Murphy accomplished so much in office, including helping secure nearly $2 billion in Everglades restoration funding, introducing the SAVE Act to eliminate billions in government spending, and passing legislation to reform the national flood insurance market. One of the first millennials elected to Congress, Congressman Murphy formed the bipartisan United Solutions Caucus, bringing members of both parties together to explore ways to get the nation's fiscal house in order. Known as a problem solver, able to work across the aisle, Congressman Murphy has one of the most independent voting records among all members of Congress during his time. Mr. Murphy is currently a vice president at Coastal Construction, where he is instrumental in Coastal's diversification and growth as the company continues to expand throughout Florida. Mr. Murphy also co-chairs Coastal's philanthropic arm, Coastal Cares. Additionally, after leaving office in 2017, Mr. Murphy was named chair of the Future Forum Foundation, a nonprofit organization that researches key issues impacting millennials, such as automation, artificial intelligence, and the sharing economy, as they, millennials, take on more responsibility in the workforce and in their communities. Clearly liking to stay busy, Mr. Murphy also was one of the visiting fellows at the prestigious Georgetown Institute of Politics and Public Service in Washington, D.C. during the fall 2017 semester. We are so fortunate that Mr. Murphy lives nearby and happily agreed to be our graduation speaker today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Patrick Murphy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Headmaster Caffrey, for your leadership. Thank you to the board chair, Debbie Texter. I want to thank all the teachers, all the parents, the grandparents, college counselor, Janet Pacifico, and of course, to the students for your inspiration. Thank you all very much. I also want to give a special shout out to Summer and Sophia for that inspiring speech. I'm so curious that the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is Google, guess what, spider sex. I'm so curious. I almost did it here on stage. I don't know. Just to see what pops up first. But it's exciting to be here, looking at you all, looking at the parents and grandparents, trying to remember what it was like in your shoes, thinking back to the excitement, but also a little bit of the sadness that exists because this is such a big step. You see, I was born at the beginning of the previous generation, the millennials, and was the first of that generation to serve in Congress. And it's pretty cool to speak here today to the beginning of the next generation, Generation Z, or the post-millennials. I remember sitting where you were not that long ago, as it seems, thinking about what the heck I was going to do next. You see, I had a decision on my hands. Was I going to play football and baseball? That was like the big thing to me, was playing sports in college, and that was my priority. And I decided to do a 13th year of high school. I did a post-grad year of high school up in New Jersey and was playing football. At the third game of the football season, and I was playing safety, and running back comes through the middle, and we both get knocked out. On the ground, stretcher, the whole deal, bring us off. Go to the infirmary, and my memory was fine. I slept there overnight. Everything seemed to be fine. A couple days go by. Monday morning in my class, it was a Vietnam class, 13 people, really small class. And I go to give a presentation, a couple note cards, I'm ready to go. And I get so nervous to speak, I basically had to sit down. My heart was racing through my jacket. I felt like I had a balloon in my throat. I could feel my heartbeat. The teacher had seen me give a presentation before, knew I could do it, so he thought I was unprepared. He said, Patrick, take a seat, do it next week. Okay, I didn't think much of it. A couple days go by, I'm in my English class. And every week we had to have an essay to prepare, and everyone criticized it. I couldn't get through the first paragraph reading. I was so nervous that the teacher, again, thought I was unprepared. So here I am. I'd been the class president of my school. I'd been speaking. I was never afraid to speak, yet I couldn't talk for 5 minutes in front of 12 people. So a couple weeks go by, and I'm flying home back to Miami, and we're taking off out of Philadelphia airport, and we hit a little turbulence. Next thing you know, I start crying. Right, I'm losing it. I'm there, I'm crying. I think the world's coming to an end. And the lady next to me grabs my hand and says, "Son, it's okay. You know, it's just a little wind, a little turbulence. You're going to be fine." I'm sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me? Right, I've never been scared of turbulence, never been scared of flying. But something had happened, and I couldn't disconnect my emotions from my brain. So I landed, and I say, "Mom, we got a problem. I don't know what's going on. I'm like a totally different person right now. I can't control what's going on." So we go to another doctor, and he says, "Look, your son had a concussion a couple weeks ago. Turns out your memory can be affected, or your emotions can be affected." And it turned out it was the latter for me. So I started college being so scared and so nervous that I didn't even want to raise my hand and say who I was when they were going around giving, the attendance. I was so nervous to be looked at. And this had all happened in 1 year out of nowhere. And I was so frustrated with that feeling, what that felt like, because I was such a different person, that I decided I was going to start taking public speaking classes, trying to get back to where I was. So I started doing Dale Carnegie classes and Toastmasters and doing everything I could to try to push myself out of that weird thing I'd gotten into. And turned out 8 years later, I was elected to Congress, speaking in front of thousands of people without a problem. And that is, I think, an important lesson for all of us. That perseverance, that dedication really does mean something. Because the truth is, we're all going to have disappointments in life. Right? We're all going to have setbacks. Things are going to happen to all of us that we cannot predict today. But how you respond to that is typically more important than the event itself. One of the single most important words you should remember as you go off to college and in your life is attitude. Right? Everyone's going to face different challenges: depression, family problems, addiction, injury, sickness, sadness, failure, you name it. We're all going to have something in our life. But it's your attitude that can be one of defeat and failure, or one of optimism and hope. But only you can make that decision. Now, speaking of disappointment, I heard an interesting story that you all experienced here early on this year. When the headmaster, Caffrey, who was new to the school, decided it would be a good idea not to have desserts served here. I mean, I don't know what you were thinking there. No desserts. And in the words of Mr. Squire, what's up with that? No, but I think it probably taught you all a lesson, perhaps. Right? There was a disappointment. Clearly something big had happened in the school that you were unhappy with. You got together. You had some leadership. You went and you met with the headmaster. You found some middle ground. You had a solution. You solved the problem, and you moved forward. Right? A small lesson, but nonetheless, you were able to see progress by coming together. Right? That's an important thing to remember as you move forward. And you should all be proud of the work that you've done thus far to get here today. Right? One of the hours and the months, the weeks, the years that you've spent studying and planning. All the sacrifices that your parents and grandparents have made to guide you along. And if nothing else, your education was built on the foundation of analyzing and investigating truth. It's the answer to every math problem that you solved. Right? It's the result of every experiment you had in chemistry. It's the deeper meaning of every sonnet you read in English class with Shakespeare. You sought to find out, how can I apply what I know to find out what the facts really are? And if there's one skill that you learned inside these walls that's going to be applicable for the rest of your life, no matter what career you pursue, it's that exploration of truth. And continue searching for meaning. Continue pursuing the answers. Continue digging a little bit deeper and questioning assumptions or fake news, as Sophia mentioned. Continue applying what you've learned here to the many real problems that my generation and many generations before me still haven't quite figured out yet. And as you move forward, you're going to have opportunities in your career, right, in college, to take the shortcut, to take the easy road. But always remember that being a person with integrity is the most valuable asset that you have. Always consider the people that you surround yourself with. Right? Are these people that you'd be proud to bring home to your mom and dad, to your mentors? Because starting college is, for most of you, going to be the most freedom that you've ever had. Right? And that's one of the most important parts of college, is that independence, is that growth, that learning. Learning to manage your time. Learning to study without being told and begged to do it. Learning to eat without mom cooking it for you. Budgeting and cleaning. Managing to have a little bit of fun along the way. These are all decisions and time frames that you're going to have to come up with on your own. Right? None of this means, in fact, it's to the contrary, that you will make mistakes. Right? We're all expecting some degree of mistakes because we all made them. But learn from them. Strive to do better. Strive not to repeat those same mistakes. And always have the courage to do what you think is best. Right? Stand up for what you believe in. No matter what happens, your friends, your family are going to respect you for being true to yourself, having your own opinions. So don't lose your voice. In fact, grow your voice. Be bold. And be proud of that voice that you're developing. And despite what's happening in politics, despite what's happening in D.C. and around the world, there shouldn't be a race to the bottom. Right? Facts matter. Values matter. Morals matter. That curiosity that we were talking about matters. Continue digging deeper. You see, you're part of a generation that has had access to more information than any previous generation. You've had the internet your entire lives. You're experts on social media. You've witnessed firsthand the current technological revolution that we're in. Right? What was once the printing press and the cotton gin and the automobile is now that availability of information at all of our fingertips. And this is good news, because a lot of the opportunities that our country faces are also some of the challenges we face. Artificial intelligence, automation, the gig economy, changing ecosystems, disease prevention. Right? Through the pursuit of truth, you have the ability to make some real changes in this country. Changes that can positively impact people's lives. Of the 20 fastest growing skills in 2018, more than half of them were not on the list last year. Think of that for a second. Of the 20 fastest growing skills in 2018, over 50% of them weren't even there last year. No one even heard of them. The pace of change is incredible right now, which means you should be learning to learn, right? Constantly pushing yourself, constantly retraining and exploring new opportunities. Because despite what your parents or friends or colleagues or whatever stereotypes might be out there about your generation and mine, you're not lazy, right? You're not self-centered, you're not entitled. In fact, this generation has given more back to society as a percentage than any previous generation at this point in time. Some recent examples of this generation giving back and taking a leadership role are David Hogg and the students at Parkland, Chance the Rapper, Malala, right? All people that have done incredible things. Think about David Hogg, what he's done, student at Stoneman Douglas. Right? He decided to take a gap year and not rush to college because he wanted to focus on this year's midterm elections, specifically registering his peers, your generation, right? Getting them involved in the voting process. Because of what he witnessed and what he experienced, he's trying to make a difference and do what he can to make the changes that he wants to see. He established his own ideas for change and found a way to make enough noise to get elected officials and politicians and decision makers watching and scared. So be creative, be bold, follow your heart. Chance the Rapper. I think there's a few people in the front here have heard of him, the rest of you probably not. Google him though. Chance the Rapper is doing what he can to help his hometown of Chicago. Right? Making warm sleeping bags for the homeless, trying to end gun violence in his town, donating tons of money to public schools to help improve technology, and advocating for involvement in the arts instead of the streets. At 22 years old, Chance saw the opportunity and the benefit that he could bring to his community. He got it done, and he now serves as a role model for inner city youth and was asked to run for mayor at that young age. One person can make a difference, no matter their age. And Malala, as a young girl, she took on the Taliban in Pakistan and demanded that girls be allowed to receive an education. She was shot in the head by the Taliban because of it. But she survived, went on to receive the Nobel Peace Prize at 17 years old. She's now 20 years old and was recently accepted to Oxford. She continues her fight and is viewed as a worldwide advocate for women and young people. So be passionate, be relentless, be strong. Continue looking for ways that you can make a difference in your community and in the world, ways that you can give back, things that make you happy. Because only you can define what success is and what's going to make your life meaningful. Happiness is found in doing what you love. You see, we're part of a generation that defines our lives not by money, but by meaning. Always follow your dreams, because nobody knows what the future holds. Focus on awareness, on passion, on honor, and on ethics. Fight against apathy, and never, never settle. Thank you all so much for having me today. Enjoy whatever it is that you do next. Take the lessons that you've learned from these wonderful teachers, your parents, your grandparents, everybody involved that's gotten you to this point, and go on to do what you want to do and make the changes that you want to see not only in this community, but in the world, because we all have faith that you can do it. Thank you very much.